Call the meeting to order of the town meeting of the Village of Evendale, as per our charter, requires us to annually hold this town meeting. We will begin with the honor guard, who will present the colors. Please stand. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Post the colors. Please be seated. The first order of business will be to elect a secretary. May I have a motion? Ms. Ross nominates the ICRC, who will televise and record the meeting. Is there a second? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? None. The secretary will be the ICRC. So we're here tonight for the annual meeting of the Village of Evendale Town Hall. And it's really been quite a year for us in 2022. It's been a good year for us, for a change. Some of our businesses have picked up their employment, particularly their in-house of employment, and some of that as we will go through here tonight. A couple of the pictures are your left or right. That's the staff of for the mayor, and sworn in was a new police officer in the upper right-hand corner. And the picture in the bottom, we dedicated one of our fields to Ron Cutter, who passed away this year. And he was a very devoted and took great care of our fields for us and participated in the village. And it was fitting that we name it Cutter Field. It's the one right out the recreation door. Next you have the council. They're all here tonight, and they will introduce themselves and tell you about their particular area of expertise this evening to follow through. The demographics of the village, still 4,784 feet, 74 square feet, hadn't changed. And it's still about 2,730 residents. We might have gained one or two in the course of the year, but we did not gain a lot of people. There is a list of the daytime, well, we're still about 22,000 people in the daytime and 2,730 at night. There's a list of the businesses that are part of the Village of Evendale. It's about the same as it was last year, but some of those businesses have grown quite a bit over the last year and are producing very fruitfully for the village and for our population. One of the big events of the year was the opening of Kinetic Vision over on Arrow Hub Drive. They opened their business in August of 2022. They have a 52,000 square foot facility that's now fully operational. Now let me tell you, you can't understand what this business means to the Village of Evendale unless you happen to go over there and take a tour. And they will give you a tour anytime that you so desire. Just give them a little advance notice. We have all been over there. It is beyond your dreams of what goes on today in the artificial intelligence world and the manufacturing world and the things like that. They have now, it says we have 141. They're now up to 210 employees. We had a little presentation by them last week or this week. They've added 10 people just this week to their facilities. And it's a $10 million capital improvement, and I think it's going to bode very well for the future of Arrow Hub Drive. Next on Arrow Hub, we're working on our Smart Technology Center concept. We have work in progress on the design. We have hired Immersion to do the design of the building. We anticipate the building will cost between $15 and $16 million. And we want it to be a state-of-the-art. We're in conjunction with Cincinnati State College, and with Miami University is also our partner in this venture. And there is a number of spaces that are available for original equipment manufacturers to put their equipment in this space. We have applied to the Chancellor of the State of Ohio. He thought the idea had a lot of merit, but he didn't have any money. So he deferred us to the Department of Development, where we have had 2 conversations already, and that's the reason that we have hired Immersion to do our design of the building to present to them by the first part of December is when we're due to present to the Department of Development of the State of Ohio for the $15 million. In addition, on Arrow Hub, we have 5 pad-ready sites available. We have the potential of a manufacturing facility in a spec situation put on by Arrow Hub, and things are going very well on that site. Just within the last month, we have been contacted by Enable Injections. It's now out, their business in the Village of Evendale, and they want to build a new facility, and we're looking for trying to make the pad ready available so that they're continue to be attracted to the Village of Evendale to do their business. They make devices affixed to your body that releases medication into your system at a time period that's set out by the manufacturer. And we think they could be a great asset to the Village of Evendale. Other notable activities that occurred in Arrow Hub, we rezoned the St. Rita's property. That is now zoned as a PUD, It was previously zoned as a public facilities. We have been working with the Archdiocese of Cincinnati, which owns the St. Rita's facility. They have about 45 acres over there, and we would like to add that to Arrowhub as a potential site for another building to come into. St. Rita's is going to continue to be there for a while, at least in the near future, and Landmark is also going to be there in the near future. We were able, in the course of the year, we had a $500,000 that had been designated by the Ohio Jobs Ohio. We were able to preserve that $500,000 and give it another 2 years in order to implement construction of the necessary building on that site. Down on Reading Road came acres. Many of you may have been there. I have been there. It's a great place to have fun. We are having a completely renovated campus offering mini golf, driving range, restaurant, and services together as games and events. We now have the kids that have a kind of a tournament down there during the day, and they are in the process of applying for a outdoor tent so that they can continue to serve people dinner and cocktails and whatever. And it's really a family designation. The night my wife and I were down there, there were kids, there were people, there were golfers. It was just quite an event in the facility. Maybe some of you have seen the Duke Station that's being constructed on Glendale Milford Road. Duke Energy bought that 3.5 acres when it was on the market. Duke Energy has the right of eminent domain as well as far as the property that they own, which means they have the right to condemn and to do what they want on that property. We had early meetings with them in which we convinced them that they should at least make their buildings look halfway decent, and thus you see them, the ones that are going up are going to be of a brick structure with a standing metal roof, and they're going to look as much like a house as we possibly can. They're putting a driveway with a concrete fence along the edge. Construction should be done by the end of November. We have 2 residents going up in Evendale, one on Otterbein Road. $400,000 is the estimated cost. We also have one on Moeller Woods area, which is a $650,000 estimated cost. The police firing range continues to be the subject of Evendale and the communities around us to try to get it moved versus last year when we were here. We didn't have a place for it to go. Now we have a place for it to go. The county has agreed to expand their gun range in Colerain Township. It's a perfect place for it. Nobody lives around it. And we're hopeful that that can happen. We have a meeting this week with Senator Brown's people from Washington, and we're hoping to get a stipend from him to go with a $2 million pledge we have from the city of Cincinnati. $5 million is pledged from the county, and we're hoping to get $4 million in federal funds as far as Senator Brown is concerned. GE Aviation continues to be very much of interest to us in the village of Evendale. Last year, or this year, 2022, they pulled over $14 million in building permits. I think that sits well as far as what the future of GE in Evendale is. It means they're spending money over there. The receipts on our tax returns are continuing to come in, and all in all, things look pretty good. GE, as you may have read in the paper, is going to be split into three parts. One is going to be GE, not aviation, it's aerospace. And that one is going to be headquartered in the village of Evendale. Their science is going to remain in Milwaukee, and their power systems, I think, is going to remain at the home in Boston. But beginning with 2022, they had booked $12 billion in new orders at the Evendale plant. Not necessarily Evendale plant, but part of which is very big. So that gives you a little rundown of what's going on in the village. We will save time for questions later, and I'll turn it over to Councilman Albrink for the finance report.
Good evening, everybody. As Mayor mentioned, I'll be reporting on finance again. Over the years, I've reported that, especially over the last few years, with COVID, everything's up and down. But before we get to the actual numbers, I do want to mention that every year the village finances are audited, which means every penny that we received and every expenditure that we pay out has to check the guidelines set by the state of Ohio, and it's very, I'll call it monotonous, because the detail that they require, it's unlike how we handle our checking accounts or even most businesses. The public accounting process, you have to account by category, and it's very, very detailed. And I want to recognize Cynthia Karachi and her staff because we got a complete clean audit this year. We've had it in the past, but I don't think I've highlighted it in these reports. But the amount of detail, thousands of entries, both debits and credits every month, then every year have to be tracked properly. And it's rare that a municipality does get a full clean report. So I'd like to just recognize her for the job they do and making sure all the finances are on it. It's very, as we always worry about finances, it's good to know that it's being tracked properly. We read a lot of communities that it's not so such a nice luxury, and that there's reports of not just fraud but mismanagement. So I do want to recognize Cynthia and everything they do to keep us straight and make sure we're paying the bills. Now to the fun part. Revenues this year took a big jump. In 2019, tax receipts were about $15,900,000. We all know what happened in 2020. It dropped down to about $14.9, but the real hit was the hangover from COVID as we entered 2021, and revenues, or tax receipts, were down to about $14.2. So we saw over the course from 2019 to 2021 a drop of about $1.7 million in revenue through tax receipts. This year, we entered the year and we didn't know what was going to happen. We were extremely cautious with our budgeting, from raises to capital expenditures, because we didn't know if that 14.2 was the new norm, or whether we would ever get back to that 2019 number, and if we did, how long it would take. We were surprised, and if anybody pays attention and watches us with our monthly council meetings, I'd report that each month it looks good, but we're very cautious. We're not sure. In March and April we were proceeding, and every month, and now at the end of the year, we are projected to be back to those 2019 numbers. All very positive, where we want, much more than what we expected. So the revenues are very positive. but we all know what has happened with the economy beyond just revenues. Expenses across the board are hitting us all, and the village is not immune to the increases in these costs of living, from utilities to supplies, materials. It's all gone up double digits. So everything we buy costing us that much more. So that 15.9 that we were able to manage under, now we have to maintain greater scrutiny, not because of the receipts, but because of the expenditures. A couple of the big ones, and we've known this, everybody's aware, healthcare costs. Healthcare in the last 5 years has gone from about $650,000 to $1.2 million a year. When I first reported this, I've been on council now almost 20 years, it was like $250,000, $300,000 was the total cost. We all know how it's gone up over the years, but in the last 5, it's almost doubled. The village does everything. The employees are very active and engaged in trying to help administration keep the costs down. We do everything. We're acting very proactively, but it's just the reality of the world that healthcare costs are just going out of control. That's not even the worst. We all heard, and compensation for employees is something that the village is again faced. We are all aware how it's difficult for every employer out there to find enough good employees. I know I've driven by this Wendy's down here, and they've been closed because they can't get people to flip burgers and work the drive-through. The village has, maybe a little prejudice, but the best employees. And we need to do everything we can, from service, to rec, to fire, to police, to admin. We have incredible employees, and we have to do everything we can to keep them. Unfortunately, the cost of employing people has gone up. It's become much more competitive. It's other communities are facing it, and with the attrition of people, whether they're retiring or looking for other opportunities, we have to be competitive, and it's become a very conscientious effort by council to make sure we address this. Not only do we need to keep the great employees that we have, but as they retire and move on, we need to be able to attract people of the same quality, the same standard. And so over the last, call it 6 weeks to 2 months, council has reviewed and analyzed the compensation package of every department, and we've had to, and I say have to, it's not that we do it begrudgingly, it's the reality that we have to make sure that these people are properly compensated, so when they come to work, they're not looking at other opportunities because they can make a little bit more elsewhere. And so we gladly, and we're fortunate that we do have the resources right now, that we have given all the employees significant raises, much more than the annual 2-3%. Last year it was much less because we're coming out of COVID. We didn't know what it would be, the revenue. We hopefully made up for that in the eyes of the employees, and then given them raises, every department a little bit different, but recognizing that we need to be competitive and make sure that if they choose to leave, an employee chooses to leave, it's not because of compensation. There's always personal reasons why. We never want compensation to be a reason why. We had to get a little creative in some areas. The fire department, a big part, and I see several down here, it is not just compensation, but time. They were on a very unique, and I will not try to explain how their schedule works, but they were, just briefly, it was a 52-hour cycle. And we've given them some additional compensation, but also adjusted it to a 48-hour cycle. Don't worry, we've been assured by the chief and other members of the department that it will never impact their ability to service us, but that was something that was important to them, and you'd have to talk to the chief about how that exactly works. But it was important to them, so it was important to us that we recognize that and do what we can to make sure that we address that need and that desire. So finances, revenues are up, expenses are up a little bit more. We've always kind of teeter-tottered on the, do we work in the black and the red, and depending on capital expenditures, we've always been very fortunate. We continue to maintain a surplus in excess of 1 year's expenses, even with the increases. So the village is strong. We continue to be strong. We don't know how much we'll have to tap into the surplus over the years, coming up because of these increased costs. The mayor mentioned how revenues are up in GE's building, and we're adding on to Aero Hub, all very positive, but it's something that we just have to continue to monitor. So we're doing our best. We want to maintain all the great services that we have here. Even when you have a surplus, you always have to be very conscientious of expenses and how we manage it, and we're doing our best to do that. Thank you. We went a little bit out of order, so next up is Beth McDaniel. She's going to talk on Gorman Heritage Farm.
Thank you, Jeff. That was a good report. So, good afternoon. It is my pleasure to report on Gorman Heritage Farm. In getting ready for this report, I met up with Nicole Gunderman, the new executive director at the farm, on this beautiful fall day. Nicole comes to all of our monthly meetings, and she tells us all about what's going on at the farm. But I asked her, could you give me a personal tour of the farm so I can see what you're talking about? Well, she did, and we could have walked and talked all day long. Her enthusiasm and her knowledge about everything at the farm is absolutely amazing. If you haven't met Nicole yet, I encourage you to stop in and say hi. We are very lucky to have her as the executive director. So we left the interpretive building and we start walking and we get to the children's garden, and she explained how everything at the farm has to do with the mission of the farm, which of course is to educate about agriculture, nutrition, sustainability, and the environment. So we know they offer programs like field trips, summer camps, scout programs, classes for families and adults. Most of the programs serve kids pre-K to grade 8, but there are also programs for high school and college students, which I had no idea. While we were walking, we saw a group of students from Xavier University. They were up in the gardens. I guess they were winterizing the gardens. They were volunteering. And then we also passed a group of UC students who were there on a field trip with their professor. So lots of things happening. The staff tries to incorporate the education mission into everything they do and every decision that they make. For instance, when deciding about what animals they raise and where they will be located, the animals need to be kept in a pasture that are accessible for programs and visitors to interact with when the visitors are there. They don't want to put them out in a field so nobody can ever see them. So that's part of their decision-making process. Lots of excitement over future plans for the farm. The former Union Hall on Reading Road has been transformed into the Soil and Stars Education Center. Gorman Farm and iSpace have transformed the inside of the building. I think they're working on the outside too. I saw Chris out there. It has quadrupled the classroom space and will allow education program to expand over time. The farm is currently raising funds for a teaching kitchen so they can offer more cooking classes and nutrition education. Another new thing that's in the works is a new animal barn. People always want to see animals on the farm. A new animal barn will make it possible to have more goats, sheep, and other animals. And this new barn also supports the partnership with the Gorman Farm 4-H Club. watershed, this is hard to say, watershed restoration work is underway. Nicole explained this at our committee, trying to understand what she's talking about. I'm like, I'm clueless. But seeing it in person really helped me understand what is happening. So phase 1 is kind of all underground. I think it's finished. And phase 2 is just getting started. The farm received an H2 Ohio grant, which will create wetlands that will trap water and be an education station. This is not only good stewardship of the land, it also supports the larger Mill Creek restoration. This is a big project that's going to really change. It's kind of like on one of the walking trails. It's going to really change the way it looks, and it's going to be a really cool thing. The Gorman Farm staff is also working on enhancing the visitor experience. There will be new interpretive signage installed in the farmyard in early 2023 to tell the story of the Brown Gorman family and what life was like on this land in the 18 and 1900s. There will also be new welcome signs, enhanced offerings in the farm shop, and expanded hours in October. These are just a start to the focus on enhancing the visitor experience at the farm. So I know you're all wondering, what are some ways that I can get involved at Gorman Farm? Number 1, you can visit the farm. Enjoy the gardens and historic farmyard, take a hike on the trails. There is a new trail map, which was compiled by the Evendale Rec Department, that has all kinds of trails throughout the village, here at the rec, on the farm, Griffin Pond. So these are available out at the front desk out there. Really nice little guide. Number 2, you can become a member of the farm. Evendale residents are always welcome to visit the farm, but are not automatically members. Membership supports the farm and provides discounts on programs, classes, and camps. Number 3, you can volunteer at the farm. There are lots of different opportunities for everyone to volunteer. Number 4, you can take a class. It's a great way to have fun and learn new things. I'm looking forward to that kitchen being built, so maybe I can take some cooking classes. Number 5, you can bring a child or grandchildren to the farm, go for a visit, preschool story hour, or summer camp. And number 6, you can attend a fundraiser. The Sunflower Festival, which is held in October, and the Row by Row Dinner, which is held in August. They both support the operation and mission of the farm. So I'd like to thank Nicole for this great tour of Gorman Heritage Farm, and I encourage all of you to stop in for a visit. And now I believe Councilman Putoff is next with the report on recreation.
Thank you, Beth. I'm also going to talk about the Cultural Arts Center. So I have two reports for you. I did get the opportunity to go to the Row by Row dinner this year. Actually, several of us did, and we really had a fabulous time there. And if you get the opportunity, you should take advantage of it. It really is a nice event. As far as the Evendale Cultural Arts Center and the Bell Tower Arts Pavilion, we've had a fantastic year at the direction of Susan Gordy, who does a wonderful job with very little staff, now taking care of 2 buildings with the addition of the Performing Arts Center, the Bell Tower Arts Pavilion. We continue to evolve, change, and be inspired by the arts all around us. Thank you to all of our students and patrons who fueled great growth across all our programs and buildings this past year. We saw continued improvements to both of our facilities with a new state-of-the-art sound system at the Bell Tower Arts Pavilion, and we continue to advance toward ADA compliance at the Cultural Arts Center. To date, we have secured nearly $500,000 in grants to go toward this much-needed improvement. We just now have launched online donations to help fund better access to the arts for Evendale. So if you know someone or if you would like to donate, you can text the word donate to 513-995-1687 to send your contribution in today. 2022 saw our arts programming thrive in Evendale. Our friends from the Cincinnati Playhouse in the Park returned to live theater with 3 off-the-hill productions at the Bell Tower Arts Pavilion. We continued our tradition of monthly art ventures this year with memorable trips to New Soul Glassworks, I don't know if I'm saying that right, Metamora, and Mott's Military Museum, to name just a few. We saw a return to art shows with our 20th annual Evendale Fine Arts exhibit in May. We celebrated by expanding into the multi-purpose space, and welcomed students back to the show. We also continued our rotating exhibit in the Evendale room, right as you walk in, at the Recreation Center, bringing some of the Cincinnati's best artists to you. August had us in stitches with the return of our Stretching Tradition quilt and fiber art exhibit, and once again, the pool fence serves as the backdrop for our annual Evendale juried photo exhibit, outside. This year's show is part of the nationally recognized Photo Focus Bicentennial Festival. So if you haven't had the opportunity, that artwork is still on the fence lining around the swimming pool, so I think we'll get out of here before it gets dark if you want to wander over there and see that exhibit. Our big art party returned once again in August, featuring all of our favorite activities and fun. Our summer art students were the star exhibitors this year. We welcomed several new partners to our arts family, including monthly crafts with bobbins and brushstrokes, improvements and upgrades to our ceramic studio with Chris Talby, contemporary artist John Metz, and fiber artist and photographer Amy Gable. The performing arts blossomed on our new stage at the Bell Tower Arts Pavilion. We continue to partner with the Tri-County Players and brought 5 live theater productions this year, including that championship season, The Women of Lockerbie, A View from the Bridge, and next month's The Dining Room. We also look forward to bringing you Local Ink, the 15th annual printmakers market featuring over 40 regional print artists and their wares on next Saturday at, in this room, is that right? Yeah, in this room from 11 to 4 here at the Recreation Center. We're excited to partner with Tiger Lily Press to bring this fun event to Evendale. Thank you to all our residents, artists, and friends who supported and embraced our new events and ways of experiencing the arts. We can't wait to see what new art adventure 2023 will bring. My second report is the recreation highlights. This year, programming, we had, in December of 2021, we had 75 families took home gingerbread houses, gingerbread house making kits. And so I know they always enjoy that one. Snow Much Fun Festival revamped into the Winter Festival with all activities taking place outside for our 300 guests. The return of pre-COVID programming and special events starting in February of this year, including, we had the Daddy-Daughter Dance, had 44 attendees. The children's programs had a great full year back with 178 participants through the various seasonal classes. Our Wee Egg Hunt and Family Egg Hunt had the most participants since 2004. I think people just wanted to get back out and do things again. Youth basketball, Dave Karachi's varsity boys were the high rec champions. Casey McKnight's JV boys were the tournament champions. Chris Ralston's 6th grade boys were the high rec champions. So congratulations to all of them. Adult programming had bunco nights, putt-putt leagues at the Acres, 9 meet and greets, a veterans program, a Veterans Day program, holiday party, weekly card nights, card making, chair volleyball, Wii bowling leagues, monthly Moms Club events, and guest speakers and more. Spring soccer, we had Dan Hunt's boys passers were 2nd in their league. Josh Valentine boys wings were 1st in their league. So congratulations to them. We had the family pool party that had 228 people in attendance. Fun in the Sun summer camp had 193 participants this year. We had the dedication of our baseball field number 3 right out here, named it after a longtime employee of the Recreation Department and a great man who'd been with us for a long time, who the mayor mentioned, Ron Cutter. We named it Cutter Field, and very appropriately. Ron put a lot of sweat into that field, taking care of it over the years. So we always appreciated what Ron did for us, and in a way to honor him and his family, we named that field after him. We had 9 pavilion series performances, plus free yoga at the pavilion every Monday night. Our 4th of July 10K race and the evening 4th of July festival were back, and they returned with our great Rosie's fireworks show at the end of the festivities. Our ladies' NETL tennis team won 2nd place in their league. We hosted the swim championships, which I think we do about every 7 or 8 years. 8 years? About every 8 years. So it was our turn again. Did a great job. Thanks to everybody who helped out, because it takes a whole village to do that kind of thing, and it really was a successful event. And I don't know if I really need to say this one more time, but we won the large division again. How many in a row is that, Steve? That's a lot, yeah, it's a lot. They just do a great job. Debbie and the coaching staff are just so great with the kids, and it's more than just a swim team. It's just a great community, and if you're not part of it, come on down. You're always welcome. The inaugural Pool Bash had 163 attendees, and they enjoyed a movie on the department's new inflatable screen. We had a new mother-son amazing race. It had 40 participants. It's the first time we had that one. Children's programs offered several special events, including Pictures with Santa, bumper bowling, miniature golf, trick-or-treat, pumpkin carving, and bingo. Fall soccer, we had Josh Valentine's boys wings and Dan Hunt's. Did I already mention that? I think that's a duplicate, sorry. They advanced to the state say tournament. And Kyra Cater's Passers girls team may advance as well. Did they? Hers did not quite make it. Okay, well, sounds like they had a good season. Halloween Fest had 900 plus enjoy a beautiful night in the village. New this year was fence art on the pool and Cutter Field fences for the Bengals and the swim team and the swim championships, the end of season Pool Bash and the Halloween Fest. So they had different arrangements of art utilizing the fence to as their palette. So that was something new this year. Violent to Pie volunteered for almost every recreation-sponsored event throughout this year, and they do such a great job. The teenagers come out and they really help this village with everything that's going on down here. And they also have some other activities. Rake and Run, is that over, or is that's coming up? They have a Rake and Run coming up, and so if you're interested, maybe need a little help, contact the Recreation Department, and they should be able to get you with the right people for that, for the Rake and Run. Facility improvements, I already mentioned Cutter Field, but they also did some sodding on both of the main baseball fields to improve them. The fields were expanding. The dirt part of this field was expanding over the years because of use, and they sodded it back in so that they were regulation in size as far as the infield goes. The pool was sandblasted, grinded, and repainted. I think they just finished that up right before the photo exhibit started. The men's bathroom and breezeway over at the pool are also being renovated. So that'll finish the renovation of that pavilion of where the bathrooms are at the pool. They added additional round tables and chairs up at the enclosed shelter house, and they resurfaced the shuffleboard courts, and they purchased some new furniture for down in the south end hallway that we haven't renovated totally yet, but we wanted to give it a little upgrade like the rest of the facility. So, and on a final note, we had both of our, let's see, we had the pool contract went out to bid in September. Our current management company, Swim Safe, was the only bidder, and thus we will again have them. They've done a great job for us. We're very happy with the work they've done in running our pool. And FitMe's has been our fitness operator for a couple years, for 2 years I think. And the contract with them has now been extended for another 2 years. I think we had a 2-year option on that, so we went ahead and expanded it. And one final note. Somebody told me that Kim Peelich was retiring as our recreation director, and she's been with the recreation department. I don't know. It's been a long time. I don't even know how many years exactly, to be honest with you. But I know she started out very young as a fun in the sun counselor, and she worked her way all the way up, and she's been part of our community for a long time. And I want to congratulate you on your retirement, and I guess we'll see if we can find somebody fitting to replace you. So I'd like to give her a round of applause. And next is Tom Sextro.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Bill. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. My name is Tom Sextro. I'm going to report on service and engineering. And this business is managed extremely well by James Jeffers and his team. Mr. Jeffers is in the back there. He does an outstanding job. First of all, when you think of service, it's always about serving the community to make things aesthetically look better and function so we can enjoy the entire things that the village offers us here. So in addition to the typical services provided by the department, such as snow removal, grass cutting, brush clipping, special pickups, maintaining the village buildings, the department has completed several projects that are continuing others to enhance the village. That was just one sentence. That's how many projects he's worked on. So For example, there's 12 projects that James and his team has worked on this year. The first is Through the Valley, which is the Interstate 75 improvement. The Ohio Department of Transportation declared the improvements through the village of Evendale, which was completed this past spring. Arrow Hub North, which is the Aberdeen trucking demolition and regrading. That was another project. This project was to remove the existing trucking terminal and prepare the site for redevelopment. This is anticipated, this project has completed, and I think it has been completed, so great job there. Snow removal, the department has responded to 10 snow events and used over 900 tons of salt. Year to date, nearly half of that, so 450 tons of that salt was used just during that single major snowstorm, which took place on February 3rd and 4th earlier this year. Shred Day, the department assisted in the annual Shred Day, including household and electronic recycling. We had a 34% increase over last year, so I'm not sure where we're getting all this stuff, but a 34% increase. That was 7 tons of paper, 8.5 tons of household waste, and 8 tons of electronic waste were collected this past May. Continuing on these projects that occurred this year, road resurfacing. This project entailed paving of 13 streets, covering 8.5 lane miles, which took 86,000 tons of asphalt. With the service, of course, we're always needing equipment, new equipment, and this year we received, it's called the Motrim. The Motrim is a piece of equipment with a deck mower, and at the end of it is a 25-foot long boom arm necessary to maintain the hillsides and maintain the hillsides, cutting back the vegetation. We also have ordered a new wood chipper, and we expect this to be here by the end of this year. Leaf bag program. This program is complete. We distributed 23,000 bags to over 325 households, and I think we still have a few bags left if anybody is interested. Is that true, James? We still have a few left? Yeah. So it's a first come, first served basis. The Duke Energy Central Corridor pipeline, the pipeline was completed and placed into service. Furthermore, the relief station at the former Griffin property is nearing completion, as the mayor had stated earlier this evening. The Griffith Family Nature Preserve, the pond fountain, was repaired and is working again. The village intends to restock the fishing pond, and please note that this pond is a catch and release pond. Municipal grounds improvement, the amphitheater lights were replaced and the entrance wall was reconstructed, and the new signage was installed. It looks beautiful. In addition to the shelter house, the police garage, the tennis restrooms, and the service annex buildings were all repainted this summer. We have a new force called the Safety Task Force. In a collaborative effort, the departments have worked over the past year on projects to protect participants in our large-scale events. These measures were employed at the July 4th program, as well as swim championships. We are continuing to work as a group on other projects that will provide the necessary safety for these activities, but will not detract from the aesthetics of the campus. Last of the projects for this year, we do have an electric vehicle charging station. Through a grant from the Ohio EPA, the village is installing an electric vehicle charging station next to the police garage. It's on the east side. It is up, but I don't think it's running. It should be up and running over the course of the next 4 to 5 weeks. This station will be free to use. We're requesting that the use of the station be limited to a maximum of 6 hours of charging per vehicle. So that concludes it for the projects that James and his team did in 2022. Here are a few projects that we're looking for in 2023. The first is the Bell Tower Theater. This project will replace the glass doors and windows with modern energy that will offer efficient systems. This work will be completed next spring. The recreation roof replacement, we have ordered the material to replace the roof over the north section of the recreation building. Anticipate installation of this roof again in the spring. LED lighting at the pool. Replacement fixtures have been ordered for the existing exterior lights and the poles at the swimming pool. We anticipate delivery of these fixtures late winter, early spring, and these should be installed before the pool opens next year. Pickleball courts. Any of you play pickleball? Very good. The village will rebid the pickleball courts installation at the east end of the tennis courts in January. We anticipate the construction of these courts will occur as weather permits and hope to have them ready by early summer. The last project for next year to discuss is the road resurfacing. We are evaluating and preparing the documents for bidding of next year's programs. We did 13 streets this year, so looking to do approximately that many for next year. But that concludes my report on service and engineering. The next report is on fire, which will be presented by Steve Burke.
Thank you, Tom. Barb is our Vanna White for the evening. Thank you, Barb. So, change the order a little bit, but fire is being presented by myself, Steve Burke, the new newbie on the council this year, and a lot of the assistance from Chief Houck, who provided a lot of the information. So, employee changes. Captain Roe retiring after 30 years plus of service to the village. We commend him and congratulated him for all his years of service. Next, Lieutenant Relag resigned after 20 plus years to be a new assistant chief at Tip City Fire Department, and we wish him well. Next, Matt Stell, veteran fire in the fire service, Hamilton County Urban Search and Rescue Team, joined our team this past year, along with Austin Doyle, just started his professional career, and also Peyton Ogle, currently a paramedic in paramedic school and set to graduate in 2023. So next we have grants. Our first grant, FEMA assisted to firefighting grants, used to purchase a second Lucas device. And Lucas device allows the medics to conduct hands-off CPR, which has proven to be better than that of a human. And actually there's been a study that it was done with firefighters, and not to put anybody down, but the consistency was off by 60% of the firefighters. So this keeps the rhythm going, also gives the paramedics time to do other things, and why the Lucas device is providing the CPR, giving patients a better chance of positive outcomes. Our second grant was an $8,500 grant that we just received, which is a new app, and it's going to be shared by both the police and fire, and to help their team. And it's got so many things, and actually they can release a call to other facilities and resources if they need it with just a press of a button on the app. So that just came about this past week. Supply line issues. Our next order of a new command vehicle was placed in October of 2021, believe it or not. It has been over 18 months, and the vehicle hasn't arrived yet, but we understand it's getting closer. It's down in northern Kentucky, ready to be delivered to the dealership, so we expect to have it before the end of the year. Training. So 2,730 hours, 0.52 hours of training in 2022. That's an average of 113 hours and 77.77 per employee, which is incredible, and it goes to say how wonderful and the benefits of our fire department and the staff that protects us. Future expenditures. Reapply epoxy to the bay floor, replace aging non-insulated bay doors. That's the one that face Reading Road, and I think both sides, right? Yep. And replace 25-year-old furniture, and then replace flooring and paint in the administrative side of the building, which was built in 1997. And then the last thing is replace original drinking fountains throughout the building, and there's some from 1950, which are probably antique, and also a few from 1970. So those will all be replaced, and the nice thing is they also have filter capabilities as well. And just to close, there's our fire department. We are a Class 2 fire department, and we've had that for the last 10 years. And we are very thankful to the fire team and fire and rescue team. And as a resident of Evendale, I feel very comfortable knowing the quality of people and the staff that we have. And we thank you again. Thank you.
So I guess that means I get to introduce myself.
Oh, I'm sorry. You want me to come back up and sorry?
It's all right.
Newbie.
And I am Carolyn Smiley Robertson, and I will be talking to you about the police department. It's always challenging to be the last one to give a report, right? So my job is to inform and not keep you long. So that's what I'm going to do. What I can say for 2022 for the police department, we have to call this the year of change. Year of change and new beginnings. Our chief, Neil Cordy, our former chief now, Neil Cordy, and our former assistant chief, Steve Niehauser, retired in June. We had 2 other retirements, which ended up creating a vacancy, 4 vacancies in the police department. For a department of our size to be able to handle that in a short period of time is challenging. Nevertheless, we did this through getting people who were police officers in other departments who applied, and we hired them. And we had 2 candidates who came from other departments. Caleb Kaminsky, who was a lateral hire from the village of Fairfax, and Taylor Milam, who was a corrections deputy for the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department. We also have 2 people who are new to the police, who are new as police officers. Actually, right now they are cadets, and they're in training, and will finish training before the end of this month at Butler Tech in the police academy. They still have to pass the test that gets them certified for police officers, but we're happy to have them aboard. The interesting thing about some of the changes, or I should say about the retirements, were that they were all supervisors in the department. So that was quite a challenge to lose a lot of experience in the department, as well as a lot of supervisory experience in the department. But this was not a surprise, and we had planned for it. And so we had several promotions. I want to tell you who's now running the department, if you don't know. First is our police chief, Tim Holloway, who's in the back. Sean McKinney was promoted to assistant police chief. Greg Tickmar was promoted to lieutenant, and we promoted 3 people to sergeant. Tyler Train, Mark Tahar, and Pete Falacci. And also we required us, because of these moves, we appointed a new detective, Anthony Smith. So We're both a new department and an old department, but we're still an effective department. And through this, the commitment to the Village of Evendale hasn't changed from the police department's perspective, and that's delivering high-quality services in a professional manner to residents and businesses of Evendale. Part of the reason that we could be this effective while changing so much personnel has to do with the amount of training that this department does. This year, we were also required, there were several state mandates as far as training due to some initiatives that were announced, I believe, last year. So what was mandated by the state for all police officers was domestic violence response, diversity, equity, and inclusion training, responding to mental health crises, use of force, and legal updates training. So I'm happy to report that all the officers in our department have completed the state mandated training. But it's just not enough to have what the state mandates, and that's part of the success of our department because it's always been a focus. So here are some of the expectations from our department. All of our officers are expected to be a jack of all trades and a master of some, not all. So the police department again provided scenario-based training covering judgment and decision-making skills, de-escalation, and appropriate use of force. Our externally focused training was supervision and leadership, criminal investigations, crime scenes, and auto accident investigations. Also, we've had several police officers complete training and have been recognized by the Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA, as you may know, as drone pilots. And we've been using drones for surveillance for village events such as the 4th of July, and also in helping our department, as well as other departments, with locating missing persons and fleeing suspects and things of that nature. So the goal that we're trying to get to, as far as having, at this point, we've had several officers already complete the training. Some are still in the course of receiving the training, but our goal is to get to a point where we have, in a 24-hour period, we have a drone certified pilot as part of the shift. So not that we have to, if we need drone operations go and get someone will already be here and on duty. So the department has responded to this point to more than 1,000 calls in 2022. The most frequent of those are traffic-related, like accidents and disabled vehicles. The next highest would be what are called trouble runs. That would be domestic troubles or disputes between businesses and customers. Many times officers have observed that one of the parties seems to be dealing with mental health issues. So the department is tracking this closely and has developed a strategy and is working on helping to bring mental health resources to those in need when it's appropriate. Property crimes, primarily theft, continue to be criminal offenses that we see frequently. Businesses and residents both are victims of these crimes, and residents are being victimized somewhat frequently. That's probably not the right term, but I think you understand what I'm saying, because we're leaving property in unlocked vehicles. There have been technology changes as well. I think we talked about last year that we had adopted a new records management system, and we this year have moved more functions under this system. We're also piloting putting printers in cruisers. We have one cruiser right now outfitted with a small printer, and our next step for next year's is to get all of our cruisers, printers installed in all of our cruisers. This way, officers will issue e-citations. The offender will still receive a copy of a paper ticket, but the benefit of this is that communication of the citation to both our department and other stakeholders like the Hamilton County Clerk's Office and the state of Ohio will receive faster, streamlined, and paperless communication of these offenses. So other services provided by the department, just as a reminder, are vacation home checks, residential security analysis, prescription drop box, and the aforementioned shred day. So in closing, what I would like to say before, I'm going to quote the chief directly on one thing, but I want to assure everyone that while we've had a lot of change in the police department, this is still a very effective department. And the reason, part of the reason that we are still a very strong department is that we knew we were going to be at this point at some time. And I have to say, having had many conversations with the former chief on, how do we get everybody developed so that we can handle this? When it happened earlier this year and you're looking at turning over so much of your supervisory staff, it gets a little interesting. But I'm happy to say that Chief Holloway has done a tremendous job in taking over. I don't think residents have noticed that we have different leadership, different police officers, but they continue to provide excellent service to the village. And I'd like to thank the police department for such a smooth transition in such major changes. But from the chief, I'm going to say, in closing, the police department continues to recognize its responsibility in serving to meet the needs, expectations, and values of the community. Our effectiveness in meeting this goal is enhanced through our relationships and effective communication with the residents and businesses in the village. Please feel free to reach out to the department or stop by anytime you have questions, concerns, or ideas you want to share with us. So again, thanks to the department. If you get a minute, please meet the chief if you haven't met him before. Thank you.
Okay, we're to time for questions, comments. Can either come from the people in attendance or also through Facebook and email. I believe Brandon is tuned into that aspect of the meeting, and so we will open it to questions or comments. Tommy.
Go back to the, Tommy.
There's a microphone.
Go back to the microphone.
I'm Tommy Robertson. Can you hear me? Okay. And I have a quick question about the fire department. And I know that they do excellent service because I've had numerous personal experiences with them. So I know they're top notch. But what I don't understand is the context of the Class 2 rating. Is there like a Class 1 that we need to strive for, or how exactly does that work?
I'm going to let the chief, I think I know the answer to that, but I'm going to let the chief do it. You do.
Thanks, Tommy. Class 2 is the second highest rating there is. There are very few departments in the United States that are Class 1. Most of them are major metropolitan departments like Cincinnati, Columbus, Toledo, Cleveland, that sort of department. Our biggest hampering on getting to an ISO rating of 1 would be our manpower. If we want to expand our manpower to meet those guidelines, I don't think the village could afford it for the first thing because of the amount of people that we would have to put on scene at the particular time of a first alarm fire. So that's our biggest hindrance of it. We're striving to improve the rating always. Our biggest place that we can improve it is our training, and that's why our training numbers are so large and so important to us, along with keeping our equipment well and our mutual aid agreements with our neighboring partners.
Hey, Mike, let me also explain the impact going from a 3 to a 2.
Sure. When the department went from a ISO rating 3 to a 2, roughly 10 or 11 years ago, it dropped everybody's insurance rates. Most importantly, it dropped the insurance rates of the businesses in the village. It saved General Electric several $1 million in insurance when we did that. All right.
Yes, ma'am. Somebody? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Patty Bonham. I have a couple questions about the Griffin property. So I think you answered it, that they took eminent domain in order to create that large monstrosity next to a nature preserve. Am I correct in that?
Could they?
So Duke, the village did not have to approve that property. Duke was able to do it based on eminent domain.
That's correct. Nonetheless, they did go through the planning committees, had a look-see at it to see what they were going to build and what they were going to, how the property was going to be constructed and so forth. Long before they even started construction, myself and Mr. Jeffers had a extensive conversation with them, trying to get buildings that were going to be aesthetically as pleasing as possible for what they were trying to build on the property. But when they have eminent domain, we don't have any control. Basically, no, they could have built anything they wanted up there, but they were kind enough to cooperate with us in the construction of the building, and we'll see how it turns out.
Are they going to put anything at the back of the property by the nature preserve trees, something to screen it? Because that beautiful pond is there and all you see is that lovely building.
It's my understanding when they complete their part of the project, they are going to turn back to us the land up on the hill that's right by the Griffin Pond. And we can build a parking lot there, or we can improve it aesthetically. We can do with it as they want. There was 3.5 acres, and I think they're using maybe roughly 2 acres. So there's going to be about 1.5 acres that's going to become surplus.
So is that still on the south side of the pond?
No, it would be on the, yes, that's on the south side of the pond.
Okay.
That's correct.
My other question is, I see there's a lot of work being done at the trails at the Nature Center, I assume removing invasive species of honeysuckle. Is something else going to replace that? I was hiking in there and couldn't really find the trails because it's really all trails now. There's no trees or no bushes. Yeah.
It kind of got ahead of us as to what the removal of the invasive species, but there's plans to plant more trees and things of that sort back on that land after the invasive species is gone. It takes several years to get rid of the invasive species. First you got to kill it, and then you got to kill it, and then you got to kill it, and then you got to kill it until it's gone, and then it may still come back.
Right.
So we're kind of looking at that as a second or third phase as far as the improvement of that park. But it's going to remain a walking park. It's going to be pretty au naturel. We're not going to put any facilities up there whatsoever other than the pond that's there right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Susan Sproul. I have a couple questions. First of all, comment. Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you so much, as well as all the other departments that are either here or have been spoken about tonight, for all the hard work you do to make the village just an outstanding place to live. Very much appreciated.
I agree. Thank you.
But now I have a question for you. One thing that I have observed is I pull out of Giverny towards Glendale Milford, when turning eastbound,
Okay?
there are bushes that are getting a little bit bigger, and you have to continue to pull out a little bit further into traffic, which creates a hazard. We know that firsthand in our family, having had a son get broadsided there because he did not see a car coming. Yes, he was at fault. He should have taken the extra time to look. But I've also noted that sometimes there's signage there as well, yard sales, garage sales. In the past, political signs. That does block visibility there and can create a hazard. And commuters that are going eastbound to westbound on Glendale Milford may not realize that those of us exiting Giverny have to pull out a little bit further in order to see the traffic coming, and then they overreact and could potentially get into the other lane of traffic. Is there anything that can be done to either cut back or actually remove those bushes so that it continues to be a safe area? If you're familiar with the area.
Yes, I am. The Evendale, or the Park Hills Association, has a plan to revamp that entire intersection. They're going to take out the center Park Hills sign,
Good.
and they're going to move the signs to the side. Now, exactly what it's going to look like, we have not seen that as yet, but they promise us it will address some of the things that you're talking about, because it's a scary place to get out of.
Absolutely.
Normally, and you kind of edge up and edge up and edge up, and I know exactly what you mean. But there are plans, not this year, but next year and it's a pretty expensive project, but the Park Hills Association is going to do it. If you note, the street was not blacktopped up to Glendale Milford Road, and that was the purpose, to leave that open so that that could be improved.
That's wonderful to hear, because it's an accident waiting to happen again.
I know.
Thank you.
Any others? All right. If there's none others, and I guess there's none by the Facebook or email, we will conclude our meeting tonight. We stand adjourned, and I thank you all for coming out here tonight to listen to the story of Evendale for 2022. Thank you.